Hi guys, today we're going to be going over the random number generator game in Python. So in this game we're going to have the computer generate its own random number and the user is going to try and guess that number. If their guess is too high, then the code is going to tell them that it's too high. If it's too low, it's going to say it's too low until the user guesses correctly. So to start off, we first need to generate the random number. So to do that, we're going to use the random library. So I'm just going to import the random library here. And now I'm going to store the generated number inside the variable number. And we're just going to do random.randint. And we're going to choose a number between 0 and 10. And of course you can choose any two numbers that you want. And for troubleshooting purposes, we're going to print out the number just so we know what it is when we test our code. So now that we have that done, we need to have a way for the user to type in their guess. And for that, we're going to use the input function. So I'm going to have input, and I'm just going to ask the user to input, to enter in their guess. And I'm going to store this value, into a variable called guess1. And because I want them to guess as a number, I'm going to put int around this so we can treat that variable value as an integer. And lastly, I'm just going to add in some directions in the top of this. So I'm just going to say you have 3 guesses to guess a random number between 0 and 10. Okay, so now that we have that, we can start checking to see if the first guess is equivalent to our random number. So I'm going to first check if the first guess is larger than the generated number. So I'm going to say if guess1 is greater than number, and if this is a true statement, I'm going to print out your guess was too high. And similarly, I'm going to check to see if my guess was too low. So I'm going to say if guess1 is less than number, and in that case, we are going to type or print out your guess was too low. And the last thing we want to check is to see if the user guesses the number exactly correct. And I'm just going to use else here because if the guess isn't larger than the generated number, and if it isn't lower than the generated number, then it must be equivalent. So we're going to do print, yes, you guessed correctly. Okay, so let's quickly run this and see if it works. So when I hit run, you can see that at the top I printed out what number was generated. So yeah, so let's enter our first guess. So let's say we're going to guess 8. It says my guess was too high. So that part works perfectly. Something that I might want to add is just a semicolon and a space here just to make it a little cleaner. So let's just run this again to check that. So now this just looks a little nicer. So let's try this again. Let's try guessing correctly now. So a random number between 0 and 10. Let's just guess 7. And yeah, so we guessed correctly. This part is working fine. So in the beginning of my instructions for the game, I said that I wanted 3 guesses. So because I wanted 3 guesses, we can just copy and paste this 2 more times for a total of 3 chances for the user. So I'm going to take this part and just paste it in 2 more times. And I'm going to set the variable equal to guess2, so I know that it's the second guess. And make sure you change that variable in the if statements as well, just so they all match. So I have my second guess, and here I have my third guess. Okay, so now I have 3 different opportunities for my user to guess the number correctly. So let's try this out now. Okay, so it says that the generated number was 2. So let's say the first time I guess high. Let's say I guess 10. It's going to say my guess was too high. So now let's say I guess really low and I guess 0. it's going to say my guess was too low. And lastly, let's just say my guess equals 2. Let's say I guessed correctly this time, and it says I guessed correctly. So that means that this is working well so far. I'm just going to add in an exclamation point to the your guess is too high, because I noticed that I forgot to do that right here. So I'm going to add those in quickly. Alright, so let's try this again. Let's say I guessed it correctly the first time. Let's say I guessed 3 the first time. So yeah, it says I guessed correctly, but it's asking me to guess again, which doesn't really make sense because technically I already won the game. So we want to try and fix this. So basically what we want it to do is once we guess the number correctly, we want the code to stop and we want the whole game to end. And how we can do that is by using system.exit, the exit function. So to do that, I'm going to import system right under my import random statement. And after the user guesses correctly, so here where the generated number equals the guessed number, I'm just going to do system.exit. And what this will do is it'll just stop the code and it'll stop everything after it, so nothing's going to run. And you'll see this at the end when I run this again. So I'm just adding this to the ends of all of my else statements here. Yeah, so let's try this again. It should work perfectly now. So let's run this and you can see how my generated number is 6. Let's guess correctly. So if I type in 6, it says yes, you guessed correctly, and the process has died, which means that no other code was executed after that point. Let's try this again. I'm just going to put in 9, it's going to say it's too high, and now let's guess correctly. Again, it says I guessed correctly, the process died, and it's not going to ask me for a third guess. Let's try this one last time. This guess is too low, and let's do 11, that's too high, and now we can do 10. And again, it says I guessed correctly, and the replit process has died, and no other code is executed. So that's it for the random number generator game. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.